Welcome back to lunch. Gonna hear from our luncheon sponsor today from PostUp, Keith Simpson, who I will introduce formally in a minute. There's still room on the bus tour, which I'm told hits all kinds of Austin landmarks that you might be interested in, including the Capitol, larger than the U.S. Capitol, don't forget. And so you might think about signing up for that. We've got So PostUp has been a sponsor of our Publishing Summit from the beginning. We were very grateful they jumped in and supported it. It helped us get the show launched 4 years ago. And they've been at each show, so we, of course, appreciate that very much. Today's Keith Simpson, Senior VP of Product and Marketing, is going to speak to you about, as you see, first-party data, what, where, and how. So Keith, come on up.
Thanks, everyone. You all hear me? Well, first of all, PostUp is based here in Austin, so all I can do is apologize for the weather. I know that we had some really fun activities lined up that are going to be a little bit dampened, literally. But hopefully, everyone still manages to have a good time. And so welcome to Austin. I'm going to talk about first-party data, a little bit of a kind of broad-ranging discussion. We'll get into some technical details, some strategy details. The goal, or at least my goal, and PostUp's goal with these presentations is to always, have everyone in the audience leaving with something they didn't know or didn't think about, right? We're not going to give you a product demo up here, but we're going to tell you about how some of this stuff works and maybe give you some ideas for your own business. So first, a bit of history. So hands up in the room here who was in the publishing business 20 years ago, remembers the good old days of, owning your audience, being able to sell directly to advertisers, quasi-monopolistic control over distribution. Great, good old days. Unfortunately, a few things happened in the last couple of decades that makes that really quite different. So it really started with the internet. Internet essentially allows anyone to consume your content from anywhere in the world, and that's really facilitated by search engines, right? So the control over distribution is in large part gone. Facebook is now commanding an enormous percentage of audience attention. And let's be clear, Facebook is competing with everyone in this room for the same, maybe not literally the same ad dollars, but Facebook has the same product, right? They have people's attention, and they have data with which they can offer to advertisers to target ads to that specific audience segment. So that's the same product that everyone in this room has, the subscriptions notwithstanding. Ad networks have been a major factor as well. It's kind of a double-edged sword. Ad networks is what allowed BuzzFeed to get started in a closet, right? It reduces the barriers to entry. You've got turnkey advertising revenue. You can just plug into your site and go and make money. But what that's resulted in is now we've got literally millions of publishers all competing essentially for ad dollars in this admittedly growing pie, but the ad networks themselves are taking a bigger and bigger slice of that revenue because they're the ones that are now providing a lot of the value, right? The ad networks have the scale. They're aggregating together all these publishers. They have data on the audience that allows the advertisers to target. So they've got the scale and they've got the data. They're the ones that are providing the actual value to the advertisers. The publishers, you as the publishers, are plugging and playing the ad networks and getting some of the revenue, but the ad networks are, because they're providing so much of the value, are taking more of the revenue. Browsers are starting to be a factor. Intelligent tracking prevention. Google Chrome is itself now an ad blocker. And then ad blockers more generally, be they plugin or Chrome, they're like this tax. It allows your audience to sidestep your business model entirely and consume your product with no monetization attached to it. So the strategic theme here for this presentation is how can you own your audience again? And in particular, how can you deliver value to advertisers so that you can claim back the share of revenue that's kind of now being distributed across all of these publishers and all of these different players in the market now. So it starts with first-party data, but there's kind of an elephant in the room here. This is data that we drew from our client base, or at least part of it. And the truth is that only about 20% of your audience actually has actionable data. So if you're thinking about AI technology or anything that's designed to kind of optimize the performance or the revenue outcomes for your business, and it requires data in some way, which of course all marketing technology does, then think about the effect it can have. If somebody's talking about a 25% lift, a 20% lift, that's probably only on that 20% where you actually have enough data to make any kind of decision about. The vast majority of your audience are effectively anonymous or don't have enough data for you to do really anything actionable with it. So this is where we start talking about email. So there's a few benefits of email I'll go through here, then I'll get to the punchline. So email is an owned direct channel, but it's also a lever for on-demand reach. And it's really the key, as I hope you'll believe after I finish my presentation, it's the key to first-party data. But other benefits are that you can reach your audience at any time. I mean, once somebody has provided an email, you can literally push content, ads at a time of your choosing. You don't have to wait for them to come to your site. You can control exactly what they see. There's no algorithms kind of intermediating and getting in the way of and deciding what content your audience is going to see. You can push it to them, and you get to choose. You can monetize them even if they don't visit. There's ways to monetize email. Even if somebody doesn't come to your site and primarily consumes the content via email, you can still monetize through that channel. And there's really no better way to nurture audiences into paying subscribers. If you can get somebody into a free trial subscription, if you can get the email address out of them, lifecycle marketing through email is this well-understood marketing topic that is really amenable to converting users over the long term. You don't have to grab them in that 1 minute you're on your site. Once you have the email address, you can nurture them through email marketing. And finally, and perhaps most importantly, email allows you to identify specific users when they visit your site. So how I like to describe this is that, so how many people in the room have got like registration concept on their site? Like you can register to your site. So maybe about a third. So that's great, but if you think about it, an email click is essentially a sign-in to your site, right? The email click can carry the identity with it, and in doing so, they're effectively signing in, not with their username and password, but with their actual true internet identity. So let's explore that a little bit, right? So the email address is essentially your definitive long-term identity on the internet, right? So you, as a person, you have your email address, and wherever you go in the world, I mean, okay, people have got their throwaway Yahoo addresses and things like that, but you have an email address that will be with you for your entire life. And whether you move states, country, or particularly if you move devices, you are going to carry that email address with you as your identity. So in this example here, we may have established a user profile on the site wherever your kind of data system is, and we've identified, okay, this person, that's their work computer, their phone, and their home computer. What if they get a new phone? Now we're back to square one. How are we going to identify this new phone as being that particular person? What would normally happen is now you've got another user, another person that's on your site, and you're starting to build a profile about them. They're a different identity. Right now, a lot of the technology in this industry is really, it's more device identity than individual identity. And it's why registrations are so powerful, because you're getting someone to declare that I am me, I am this person, and you can start to consolidate around it. But actually, you don't need a registration concept to do that, because if you can get their email address, as soon as they get a new phone, what's the first thing you do when you get a phone? You set up your email, right? If it's not already set up for you by your iPhone setup or whatever, it's the first thing you do. So you're basically saying, I've set up my email identity, which is my identity on the internet, and now, the very first time you click on an email, we can basically say, oh, it actually is that user profile A. We can now consolidate. And it just happens mechanically, right? You don't need to do anything special around device fingerprinting or trying to look at the user agent or anything kind of fancy there. As soon as they click on an email, we know exactly who they are. Not just what their device is, but who they are. The email is their identity on the internet. So sidestep a little bit just to the economics of email and why this is important. So email revenue really scales with the size of your audience, right? So the most important thing is everyone wants a big web audience. That's primary to monetization. We view web audience as a potential to convert into an email audience, now a known reachable audience that has all these benefits I just talked about. So this conversion rate is very important between the web audience and the email audience. Below that, you've got inbox rate, open rate, click-through rate, conversion rate. These are all things that are important for email programs. And they're essentially the KPIs of the program, right? So then over here on the right, we have the monetization. And monetization flows almost directly off of KPIs. Let's see if I can get this laser to work. There we go. So when you do a promotional email, so that'd be AKA a dedicated send, that's usually paying out on emails that are sent. So that's directly related to the inbox rate KPI. If you're doing banner ads or any kind of ad unit within the email, that's based on open rate. So I think we've got Power Inbox here in the room. They're kind of specialists at this. It pays out typically on email opens. So your open rate's really important. And then you're monetizing on their site. Maybe you've got some affiliate cost, CPC ads in the email itself. Click-through rate's what's important. We see a lot of publishers when they first come to PostUp that all they think about is click-through rate. How do I drive more clicks? How do I drive more clicks? But the problem with that is that if you're only optimizing for click-through rate, then you're not increasing anything above it, right? You're not increasing the amount of money you make here or here. The only thing that really does that is by increasing the size of your email audience size, because the gains there cascade all the way through the funnel, right? And of course, down here at the bottom, you want to convert people into a paid product like a digital subscription or downloads or however you make money outside of advertising. So the thing that makes all of this more powerful, when you're trying to manage something, when you're trying to improve the performance of something, what you're doing is you're trying to increase your KPIs. Right? So first-party data that's typically all gathered at the top here on the web, that's what you use to improve these KPIs. So here's just an example of how the KPIs relate to the dollars. So KPIs here on the left, you've got this many email subscribers, you're sending this many emails, you're doing this much, you're getting this much inbox, and you're doing 4 promo emails per month. The dollars just kind of flow mechanically. We actually have complex Excel models that kind of break this all out for our clients' programs. But you can see a direct relationship. If we can predict KPIs, we can predict dollars. So how do you actually do it? Now, I know there's a lot of buzz in the industry these days about CDPs, so I'm going to kind of maybe peel back the curtain a little bit to help you think about it. You already have tons and tons of first-party data. You just may not know it. The key is really making it actionable. So hands up here who uses Adobe for analytics. I see 2, 3 hands. Do you also have Google Analytics on your site? Right. So everybody in this room has Google Analytics on their site. That's just true. And in there is an enormous amount of first-party data. But the trick is in that Google Analytics, people think it's just for analytics. But actually, you really can make Google Analytics data, literally 2 years of data for everyone that has ever visited your site is in Google Analytics. And you can make it actionable. It starts with an email. Newsletter, it could be really any kind of email. Once you send it and they click it, that email carries an identity with it back to your site where we can now identify or re-identify, re-establish identify on the site. We can send, pretty easily by the way, this isn't any hardcore technology, we're sending identity, consumption, and any other custom data. Are they registered? Are they subscribed? What kind of digital products do they have? What kind of content are they consuming? That goes over to Google Analytics. And you immediately now get access to past and future first-party data tied to identity. One of the problems with the CDP is that you buy it, you install it, and then now you're building a profile. You're essentially starting from 0 data, and you're building up this valuable asset. Google Analytics, as soon as that linking happens with a click, now you've got access to 2 years of historical data as well. And then from Google Analytics, we can take what's actionable, kind of the relevant key data pieces that can be propagated to PostUp, and then be actionable for targeting. And actually, the value here is in the generalization of this. I'm just trying to help you understand how it works at a basic level. So there the emails are enriched, and now you've got targetable data for sending emails. So let's talk about specific use cases you might want to do. Well, direct sold emails, targeted campaigns for advertisers. If you have an audience, like you've got health and home and financial categories on your site, you could take a segment of that, say financial, and offer that to an advertiser for a dedicated send. Our clients see easily $30 CPMs on sent emails. So think of your entire email audience times that CPM, and as high as 200 for highly targeted special interest campaigns. You can also create or extend lists by promoting, or just enroll them in a new newsletter. If you've got 100,000 people in your email database that are consuming finance content on your site, then create a finance newsletter and just start sending it to them. You don't even have to ask them. You know they're already engaged. And then targeted promotion of your own products. And this is a little bit of a silly example, but maybe not so silly. But if you've got a large number of consumers that are interested in DIY content and you're trying to offer them a subscription product, then give them a Lowe's gift card. You know they're interested in home improvement. It's just an example of how you can use this data to target and hone the offers that you're giving to your subscribers. So here's just some random examples of promotional emails. I think promotional emails have got a bit of a sort of bad reputation that comes from the early 2000s when it was the Wild West of spam. I mean, let's be blunt. But in our experience, targeted emails for advertisers that actually make sense with respect to the type of content your audience is interested in, those work really, really well. And they can command high engagement and therefore high CPMs. So let's talk about Apartment Therapy. So they're a home decor design DIY real estate site. They've got 1.5 million people in their database, about 12 million monthly visits. And they successfully sold run-of-site campaigns. So Sherwin-Williams is a paint company. Kind of makes sense. You've got an audience that's interested in their home, so that would work for the whole audience. But they actually had interest from a realtors group. But the realtors group don't want to buy 1.5 million people. They want to buy people that are interested in buying a home. So we use this technology, these techniques, to identify the 64,000 people on their email list that had recently and actively consumed real estate content. And we turn that into a marketable segment because content consumption is a strong indicator of consumer interest, which is, of course, interesting to an advertiser. So we sold a targeted campaign, or Apartment Therapy sold a targeted campaign at a very high CPM. And we also created a newsletter product off the back of this, right? We had a 35% open rate because we knew they were already interested in real estate. We saw them consuming it on the site, so we created that product and started sending it to them. So let's talk about customer data platforms at a high level. What do they do? I think one of the main advantages of customer data platforms is that they give you a unified data view that allows on-the-fly configuration of a variety of things. I mean, you can segment your audience by behavior for trafficking ads, website personalization, that's content and offers, email capture, so forums that collect email, you can make those targeted based on information you have from kind of multiple channels. And then another one is optimization of paid traffic acquisition. So essentially sending your segments off to Facebook and DFP so that you can better attract new subscribers. But I think the problem with CDPs is that they're trying to solve this issue of having too much tech in your stack by adding more tech into your stack. And maybe it does present some opportunities to simplify. But I think, is there a more streamlined way to kind of get these type of capabilities? And we think there is. So we call it the Synchronized Data Platform, and that isn't really a product name. It's more of just a name that we've given to this kind of way of doing things. And it starts with a little piece of JavaScript on your site. I think some people in the room here are already post-up audience development clients, so you'll be familiar with this. But this is a very lean piece of JavaScript that can power email calls to action. We even do paywalls for some clients. It starts with that. And then we're flowing data. If there is a centralized database in this diagram, it's here. It's Google Analytics, because that's where most of the data is actually living. So we're going to flow data like they consumed real estate content. They've had 10 page views in the last 3 months on real estate. That's all now been living in Google Analytics. And I don't know how many people know this, but if you've got segments in Google Analytics, you can push those right into Google Ad Manager. Google Ad Manager is the new name for DoubleClick, essentially. So if you want to traffic ads, your direct sold ads, for example, on the entire Google network, and that includes YouTube, by the way, you can do it essentially turnkey by pushing those segments from Google Analytics into Google Ad Manager. And the segments are kind of controlled, or at least defined up here, so we know based on what the user is doing on the site, call it behavioral if you like, behavioral activity on the site, that can now propagate all the way through to YouTube, for example. We call this the user local DB. It's essentially collectively the distributed database that is cookies and local storage, but it's synchronized. Now we've got the same information in here. This user consumed this type of content as we do in here and in here. And of course, the information is also going back into the email database. So now, without necessarily having a single dedicated database, we have segment information, consumption information, behavioral information, and all these different places where it matters for it to be actionable, right? In the CDP model of the world, you have this database gathering everything in, and now it's pushing stuff out to the other platforms into more actionable places. Well, we kind of just sort of synchronize data between the actionable places, in situ, as it were, without having to add any significant new piece of technology. So I want to point out that I'm not standing up here trying to give you a product pitch. I'm trying to give you some insight into how these various data pieces work. I mean, this is conceivably something that you could put together yourself if you have some engineering resources. And it doesn't, there's no sort of special magic inside the PostUp ESP itself that is the secret sauce that makes it possible. But we've found, we certainly streamlined this process, and we've had a lot of success with clients doing it. But I don't want to stand up here positioning PostUp as some secret piece of technology that makes this possible. And then the last piece would be to push email addresses themselves up to Facebook so you can target or anti-target with custom audiences. So this is a little bit about PostUp. We believe, the only email-centric platform that's specifically designed for publishers. We have what we call our content distribution platform is kind of our ESP email platform heritage. We've baked a lot of things into that and a lot of capabilities that are really specific to publishers to make things very turnkey for publishers. Audience development, which is primarily what I was talking about today, is the piece that also lives on your site, where we're grabbing emails, we're powering subscription paywalls, we're synchronizing first-party data across your various systems. Monetization, well, we're turnkey with Power Inbox, Live Intent. We also have inventory management systems that help you support that business model I was talking about with dedicated sends. And tying it all together is our services and strategy teams. I mean, I know we already know a lot of people in the room here. We have been focused for publishing and media on a very, very long time. Everyone on our team is essentially experts. I hesitate to use that word expert, but we live and breathe publishing and media every day. We understand their problems. We understand how to succeed in your business. And we gear everything that we do towards driving business outcomes for our clients. That's it. Any questions?
Keith, thanks. We've got a question right here. Just remind us who you are, where you're from.
Yeah, sure. Bill Ullman from Smithsonian. And I'm sorry if you covered this, but you getting those kind of CPMs on open rates or just send rates? Because that's the big problem with emails. It only 15 to 20, or if you're lucky, 40% of people actually open the email.
The number I showed, I think what you're asking about, was CPMs on sends. Now that said, I mean, the advertiser is going to want to know what your open rates are, right? But typically, how these deals are priced is on sends. But if you only have a 5% open rate, chances are we use. I mean, it's hard to say definitively across the entire industry, but a good benchmark is if you've got to have at least 15 to 20% open rate to successfully sell dedicated sends at scale.
Anyone else for Keith while we have him? Keith, you have colleagues coming and going because you're the local crew here, so you got a few guys coming in and out. Do you have anyone from your team here right now, outside of yourself?
James over and Justin over.
James still and back in the back there, and Justin. Yep. Okay, great. These guys are also making golf available to us tomorrow by getting us access on a private golf club. So thanks for that. If it's not 14 degrees, so if you want to play some golf,
it might be 47.
It might be 47. So please get with the PostUp crew if you have any questions. Thank you for your continued support. These guys have been supporting us since day one, since we launched this program. And it's some interesting stuff. So please get with these guys if you have questions about what Keith presented here. And big round of applause for our luncheon sponsor. Thank you. And just so you guys know, the sponsor presentations are available, and all the content is available post-show back on the agenda a few days later after each event. So you can go back and look at the archived presentations and things and panels and keynotes and stuff. For those who will make it public to everyone, it's available. Okay, some more information you need to know. This afternoon, for our afternoon activities, 2 p.m., we're going to meet downstairs and take a shuttle up to Topgolf. We're going to be there for a couple of hours, and at 5, we're going to come back and be here by about 5:30, 5:40. And then we have one-on-one meetings in this room for those of you who are participating in that at 5:45. The bus tour around town, that will leave at 2:50, departing at 3 p.m., basically, for a couple of hours, and you're back by 5. Tonight, we have cocktails. Cocktails sponsored by our friends at Adestra. That's going to be across the street at Stephen F. Austin Bar. It's a block away. It's above the Intercontinental Hotel. We'll go there for an hour or so, and then we'll head downstairs below where we're having cocktails for dinner at Roaring Fork Restaurant, which is an awesome place. I think that's all I have. Wear your badges to the cocktail party tonight and to dinner. Otherwise, we won't know that you're with our group, and we won't be able to feed and give you drinks. Thank you for a great morning, and I'm very sorry about this weather. It's very unseasonal. I live here in town, and I'm enjoying the hell out of it because normally it's hot and sunny, so this is pretty cool. But I'm very sorry that it's like this. Hopefully it clears up a little bit for us as we go. Okay, thanks again to Keith and Post Up. You guys have a great afternoon, and we'll see you this